The morning sun blazed mercilessly over the city skyline, casting a golden hue on the massive construction site in the heart of Lagos. Dust rose like mist as men shouted orders, hammers clanged, and cement mixers churned in relentless rhythm. Among the swarm of sweaty workers toiling beneath the sky, there was one man whose presence seemed unremarkable to others, and yet something in his demeanor set him apart. His name was Benson, dark-skinned from the sun. Wearing an old T-shirt soaked in sweat and worn-out boots, he looked like just another poor laborer. He moved with quiet purpose, lifting cement bags with callous hands, never complaining, never idling. But unknown to everyone around him, Benson was not merely a worker. He was the secret owner of the entire multi-million naira building project. 2 months earlier, after suspecting widespread corruption in his company, Benson made a bold decision. He would go undercover as a common laborer. Only one person knew the truth, Mr. Rowland, his trusted assistant. Benson's goal was simple: identify the good from the wicked and see for himself how his managers treated the workers who built his empire brick by brick. And so, day after day, he toiled under the blazing sun like the rest of them. He slept in a small rented room, ate from roadside vendors, and lived the life of a man with nothing. It wasn't easy, but it taught him more about humanity than any boardroom meeting ever had. Every day, Benson passed a small wooden table set up outside the site, where a young woman named Belinda sold food to the workers. She was in her early 20s, with deep brown eyes and skin kissed by the sun. Her hands were swift as she served hot rice, beans, plantain, and fish. She worked tirelessly, always with a smile, though her eyes often carried hidden sorrow. Belinda lived with her sickly mother in a cramped one-room home in the slums. Her small food business was the only thing keeping them afloat. Yet despite her hardships, she never turned anyone away hungry, especially not Benson. The first time he approached her stand, Benson had only a few crumpled naira notes in his pocket. He hesitated, embarrassed, but Belinda had smiled at him gently. "What would you like to eat today?" she asked. "Just a little rice. That's all I can afford," he murmured, eyes downcast. Without a word, Belinda dished him a generous portion, rice, beans, plantain, and even a small piece of fish. "You don't have to do that," he protested. She waved him off. "Eat and gather strength. Hard work isn't easy." From that day on, a silent bond formed between them. She would give him extra food or charge him less, and they began sharing quiet conversations during his breaks. He learned of her struggles, a mother on her sickbed, the rising cost of medicine, the exhaustion of running a business alone. And she, in turn, saw in Benson a man who carried the dignity of someone far beyond his station. One particularly hot afternoon, trouble erupted at the site. Mr. Collins, the site manager, a man known for his arrogance, arrived in his flashy car and expensive suit. Spotting an elderly worker struggling with a cement bag, he exploded in anger. "Are you blind? Do you want to damage my building?" he barked. The old man trembled, trying to lift the bag again. Benson, nearby, dropped his tools and helped the man lift it. "Sir, he's too old for that kind of load," Benson said respectfully. "It's not fair to push him so hard." Collins's face turned red. "And who are you to tell me what's fair? You're fired." Silence fell like a heavy blanket across the site. No one dared speak. Benson simply nodded, picked up a small bag, and walked away, his head held high. When Belinda saw him arrive at her stand early, she knew something was wrong. He explained what happened, and her eyes welled up with tears. "You stood up for someone. That's not weakness, Benson. That's strength. You will always have food from me. Always." Benson said nothing, but inside, her words warmed a part of him that had grown cold in a world full of masks and motives. That night, Mr. Collins sat smugly in his luxury apartment, pouring a glass of wine. In his mind, he had silenced another poor fool, one of many. He leaned back and chuckled. These people will never know who really controls their fate. But as he lifted the glass to his lips, his phone rang. A private number. "Hello," he answered lazily. A calm, deep voice replied, "Mr. Collins, I've been watching you." Collins sat up, startled. "Who is this?" "I am the owner of the site. You fired one of my best men today, Benson." Collins choked. That can't be. It is. Take him back tomorrow, or you'll regret it. The line went dead. Collins stared at the phone, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. By dawn, Benson received a strange call. Collins tried to act tough, said, "You can have your job back. Just don't come late." Benson, calm as ever, thanked him and ended the call with a quiet smile. But something unexpected happened the next day. Benson did not go to Belinda's stand during lunch. Worried, she packed a plate and brought it to him. "I didn't come," he said gently, "because I didn't want to keep eating for free." Belinda smiled and placed the food in his hands. "You're my friend. Don't ever feel ashamed with me." At that moment, Benson knew something for certain. What he felt for Belinda was more than gratitude. It was love. But far away, someone else was watching Belinda too. Someone with pride in her heart and vengeance in her blood. Becky. And her return would change everything. The days following Benson's reinstatement were calm on the surface. Workers noticed Collins had become unusually quiet and almost polite, though his eyes burned with unspoken rage each time Benson passed. Benson, on the other hand, simply returned to his routine, working side by side with the laborers, his secret still tightly kept. Belinda, true to her word, continued feeding him every afternoon. Their bond deepened with each shared meal beneath the shade of the old tree near the site. Laughter came easier now, and their eyes lingered longer during conversation. To most, it looked like an innocent friendship, but in Benson's heart, the lines had already blurred. He no longer saw her as just a kind food vendor. He saw her as his future. One evening, as the golden sun dipped behind the skeletal outline of the rising building, Belinda shared a bit of news that sent a jolt through Benson's chest. "My cousin Becky is coming to visit this weekend," she said excitedly, passing him a plate of rice and beans. Benson froze. "Becky?" he repeated, trying to sound casual. "Yes," Belinda smiled. "She's the most beautiful woman in our family. Always stylish. Always bold. You'll love her." Benson chuckled, though his heart began to race. "More beautiful than you?" Belinda blushed. "Of course not. You always say I'm the most beautiful." She opened her small phone and scrolled to a picture. Here she is. The second Benson saw the photo, his breath caught in his throat. It was her, Becky, the same Becky who once demanded he fund her extravagant lifestyle. The same woman who abandoned him when he refused to buy her a car. The same woman who cheated on him with older men who promised quick riches. He masked his shock quickly. "You know her?" Belinda asked, eyeing his reaction. I think I've seen her before. Maybe at a restaurant," he stammered. Belinda frowned. "That can't be. Becky doesn't eat in cheap places. And you," she paused, embarrassed. "I mean, you're not really one for expensive restaurants." Benson laughed nervously. "You're right. I was joking." Belinda shrugged it off, but something in her gaze lingered. Curiosity mixed with doubt. The weekend came quickly. Becky arrived like a whirlwind, heels clicking on the pavement, perfume clouding the air, lips glossed to perfection. She entered Belinda's modest home and hugged her cousin with exaggerated affection, eyeing everything around with mild disgust. "Still living like this, cousin?" she asked, barely hiding her scorn. Belinda ignored the comment. "Come sit. I want you to meet someone special tomorrow." "Oh!" Becky raised a brow. "Your boyfriend?" Belinda hesitated, then nodded shyly. "Yes." Becky grinned mischievously. "I can't wait to see the man who stole your heart." The next morning, they set off together to visit Benson. Becky dressed as though she were attending a red carpet event. Hair curled, earrings shining, designer shoes clicking against the cement road. When they arrived, Benson was outside, watering the small garden in front of his humble apartment. As the women approached, he looked up and smiled, until his eyes locked on Becky. His smile disappeared, and Becky froze. Her mouth dropped open. "You!" Belinda blinked. "Wait, you two know each other?" Becky recovered first. "Belinda, this is my ex-boyfriend." "What?" Belinda's voice cracked. Benson stepped forward, his voice low. "Belinda, I didn't know she was your cousin. I swear, not until you showed me her picture." Becky scoffed. So this is what you've been doing, Benson? Hiding out like a poor man, dating my cousin? You left me, Becky, Benson said quietly. You wanted wealth, not love. You never cared who I truly was. And now you're dating her? Becky spat, pointing at Belinda. This food seller? Belinda stood still. The air knocked out her lungs. Benson, why didn't you tell me? I was afraid, he said, stepping closer. Afraid of losing you. Belinda looked between the two of them. Becky's fury, Benson's pleading eyes. Then she turned, tears falling silently, and walked away. Becky remained behind, her voice dripping with venom. You've lost her now. She'll never forgive you. But Benson wasn't listening anymore. His world had tilted. His silence had cost him the one thing he'd truly wanted. The next day, Belinda didn't open her food stand. She stayed home with her mother, who sensed something was wrong, but was too weak to ask. Meanwhile, Becky sat in her apartment, rage simmering in her veins. She wasn't just humiliated, she was obsessed. No man had ever left her for another woman, and certainly not for someone like Belinda. As dusk settled, she picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in years. Fred, she said in a cold voice, I need a favor. Becky, the man on the other end chuckled darkly. Long time. What do you need? I want a woman gone. Not forever. Just scared enough to disappear. Fred was silent for a beat. Then, name and location? Becky gave both. Consider it done. As the call ended, Becky poured herself a drink and whispered, If I can't have him, she won't either. Benson's desperate search, and the shocking rescue that will reveal the depth of Becky's darkness, and Benson's true identity to the world. The evening air was heavy with silence. Belinda walked home alone after visiting a friend. Her thoughts drifted between sorrow and confusion. Benson's betrayal, though not born of cruelty, had cracked something in her chest. She wanted to forgive him. She wanted to believe in their love. But trust, once shaken, was a hard thing to mend. As she turned the corner toward her street, a black-tinted SUV screeched to a stop in front of her. Before she could scream, two masked men jumped out. One covered her mouth with a gloved hand. The other dragged her toward the open car door. Her handbag fell, scattering coins and her phone across the pavement. Please, let me go, she sobbed, kicking and twisting, but they were stronger. They blindfolded her and shoved her into the back seat. The door slammed. Tires squealed. The car sped away into the night. Back at Belinda's home, her mother lay in bed, worried that her daughter hadn't returned. When Benson knocked on the door an hour later, looking anxious, she opened slowly. Good evening, Mama. Has Belinda come home? He asked. She shook her head. She went to visit a friend, but hasn't returned. Benson's heart dropped. He tried her number again. Switched off. He called Henry. She's missing, Benson said, panic rising in his voice. She left her friend's house hours ago. She should be home. Don't worry, Henry replied, calm but firm. I'll activate my team. Henry was more than a friend. He was Benson's longtime security consultant, a man who had once worked for military intelligence. Within an hour, Henry had located street camera footage showing a black SUV abducting a young woman near Belinda Street. They're holding her in a warehouse outside town, Henry said. Benson didn't wait. He gathered his private security team, and they stormed out of the city like a whirlwind. Inside the dark warehouse, Belinda sat tied to a chair. Her arms were numb. Her lips trembled. A tall, rough-looking man named Fred circled her like a predator. You took something that didn't belong to you, he growled. Who sent you? She asked through tears. Fred smirked. Let's just say a woman who doesn't like to lose. Suddenly, the warehouse doors burst open. Benson and his team poured in like thunder. Fred's men raised weapons, but they were no match. Within minutes, they were overpowered and handcuffed. Benson ran to Belinda, quickly untying her ropes and pulling off the blindfold. Belinda, I'm here. You're safe now. Belinda broke down in his arms, sobbing violently. They grabbed me off the road. I thought I was going to die. I will never let anyone harm you again, Benson whispered. As Fred was being dragged away, Benson turned sharply. "Who sent you?" Fred hesitated. Then, with a twisted grin, he said, "Becky." Benson's eyes narrowed. The final line had been crossed. The next morning, Becky lounged on her white sofa, sipping chilled juice, waiting for chaos to unfold. But instead, the police arrived at her gate. She was arrested immediately and taken to the station. In the interrogation room, she sat handcuffed, defiant. When Benson, Belinda, and Henry entered, her expression faltered for just a moment. Then she lifted her chin. "You made me do it," she hissed. "I loved you." "You don't know what love is," Benson said coldly. "You tried to destroy a woman who did nothing to you. She stole you from me." Becky shouted. "No," Benson replied, voice calm but deadly. "You lost me long before she came, because your love was always a transaction." The officer interrupted. "You are charged with kidnapping, conspiracy, and attempted harm. You'll face the law now." As Becky was led away, her scream echoed to the hall. "If I can't have you, no one will." But Benson didn't even flinch. He turned to Belinda and held her hands gently. "You are safe now. I promise. This is the last time you'll shed tears because of my past." Belinda nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. In the weeks that followed, Becky was denied bail and locked up. Peace returned to Belinda's world, slowly but surely. Her mother's health improved each day. Benson stayed by their side constantly, more open, more vulnerable. But there was still one truth Belinda didn't know. Until one warm evening, Benson invited her and her mother to a private dinner at a beautiful restaurant. The place was grand, yet quiet. The kind of place where secrets unravel gently. "Belinda," he began, once they were seated, "there's something I must tell you." She looked at him, brows raised. "I'm not just a construction worker. I'm the owner of the company. The entire project site. Everything." Belinda stared in stunned silence. "I went undercover because I suspected corruption. That's how I met Collins. That's how I met you. You treated me with kindness when I had nothing to offer. You fed me. You defended me. You loved me without knowing who I was." Her hands trembled slightly. "I also paid for your mother's surgery," he added softly. Belinda gasped. "That anonymous donation." He nodded. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "Because I needed to be sure. Sure that your love was real. And I was scared too. Scared you'd walk away again after everything." Belinda looked at him with moist eyes. "I don't care how much you have," she whispered. "I loved you as the man who carried cement. And I love you still." They embraced under the golden restaurant lights. Two hearts that had endured storms and now rested in calm. But outside, a dark figure watched them from a distance through the tinted window of a car. Eyes full of hate. A voice whispered, "It's not over." Becky's mother, a powerful and vindictive politician with deep underground ties, has learned about her daughter's arrest and vows revenge not just on Benson, but on Belinda's entire family. What was once a personal vendetta is about to become political and far more dangerous. 3 weeks after Becky's arrest, peace began to bloom again in Belinda's life like the hibiscus in her mother's garden. Benson remained by her side, helping her rebuild her food stand. This time larger, better equipped, and placed under a canopy with his engineer's help. Business improved. Her mother regained strength. Hope filled every corner of their small home. But not all storms give warning before they return. Far away, in a guarded mansion in Abuja, Senator Victoria Umeh stared at the glossy prison photo of her daughter, Becky. Her fingers trembled around the edges of the printed sheet. Her only daughter, her pride, her heir, behind bars. "This cannot stand," she said, voice icy. For years, Victoria had used her power, wealth, and influence to clean up Becky's messes. But this humiliation, this arrest, this poor girl named Belinda, and a man who dared humiliate the human name, it had gone too far. She placed a call to her fixer, a quiet man who had worked for her in the shadows for over a decade. "Her name is Belinda Okon," she said. "Find out everything. Family, friends, enemies. I want her erased, not killed, but ruined." "Yes, Senator." "And the man, Benson? Discredit him. Dig until you find dirt. If there's none, invent it. The call ended, and the storm stirred. Back in Lagos, Benson continued to manage his business empire discreetly, still choosing to live simply. He rarely wore expensive suits. His mansion remained empty. He preferred visiting the workers' quarters and having tea with Belinda under the mango tree behind her rebuilt shop. But despite the happiness blooming between them, Belinda couldn't shake a sense of unease. Every so often, she'd spot a strange man parked across the road. Once, a woman pretending to be a customer kept asking unusual questions. "Are you okay?" Benson asked one evening after noticing her quiet mood. Belinda nodded, then paused. "Have you ever felt like someone is watching you?" Benson frowned. "Recently?" She nodded. Benson didn't respond immediately, but something flickered in his eyes. "I'll have Henry look into it." Meanwhile, Senator Victoria's plan was unfolding. Within days, anonymous blogs began to circulate fabricated stories online. Construction magnate Benson woke, accused of fraud and identity theft. Food vendor exposed, allegations of drug smuggling, in Lagos slums. Pictures of Belinda's food stand were taken out of context. A fake story emerged that she had once poisoned a customer. A paid actor even gave a video testimony. Soon, strangers began avoiding her stand. Customers whispered. Her regulars disappeared. "What's happening?" Belinda cried to Benson, clutching her phone. "They're calling me a criminal online." Benson grabbed the device, scanning the lies, his face hardening. "This is an attack," he muttered. "A coordinated one." "Why? Who would do this?" Then it clicked. "Becky," Benson said quietly. "No, her mother. Senator Victoria Umeh." Belinda gasped. "Becky's mother's a senator?" "Yes, and very dangerous." "But what do we do?" "We fight back," Benson said firmly, "with truth." The next day, Benson held a press conference. The room was packed with media. Benson stood at the podium, not in disguise this time, but dressed in a tailored black suit, his face calm but steely. "My name is Benson Woke," he began. "I am the founder of Woke Estates and majority investor in over 17 high-rise projects across Nigeria. Recently, false allegations have been made about me and someone I love." He paused. "I went undercover at my own site to uncover corruption and injustice. That's where I met Belinda, a woman who gave me food when I had nothing. Everything being said about her is a lie, and I will not stay silent." Behind him, Henry handed over official legal documents to reporters, including payment records showing Belinda's legal business, hospital records proving Benson paid for her mother's surgery, a dossier on Becky's criminal record, including her involvement in kidnapping. The press erupted. That night, news outlets flipped. The headlines changed. "Benson Woke reveals truth. Secret billionaire speaks out. Food seller turned symbol of hope amidst political smear campaign." Enraged, Senator Victoria called her fixer again. "I told you to ruin them." He responded nervously. "The plan backfired, Ma. They have strong evidence, and now the police are reopening Becky's case under federal supervision." There was silence on the line. Then the senator's voice dropped. "Then we burn the roots. If lies won't destroy them, perhaps fire will." That night, at 2 a.m., Belinda and her mother woke up coughing violently. Smoke had filled the house. Flames licked the walls. Their neighbor, noticing the blaze, kicked down their door. "Fire! Fire!" They were pulled out just in time. Their entire home was lost. Benson rushed to the scene, his car tires screeching. When he saw Belinda sitting in a blanket, coughing but alive, he dropped his knees and held her. "I've failed you," he whispered. "No," she rasped. "You saved me. You always do." But his eyes rose slowly to the scorched remains behind them, and beyond that, into the darkness. "This war is no longer about love," he murmured. "This is about justice." While digging deeper into the Umeh family, Henry uncovers a shocking truth. Senator Victoria isn't just protecting Becky. Benson's real father, a man he believed died poor, was once Victoria's secret lover, and Benson may be tied by blood to the very family now trying to destroy him. The ashes of Belinda's childhood home still smoked when dawn broke over the slums of Lagos. The fire had swallowed memories, clothes, and the frail bed where her mother once recovered from surgery. But it hadn't swallowed her hope. Not this time. Benson stood by the charred doorway, unmoving, fists clenched at his side. Behind him, Henry approached slowly, holding a folder. "I have something you need to see," Henry said, voice tight. Benson opened the folder and scanned the documents. Birth records, bank statements, confidential notes. A faded photograph of a man in his 20s, sharp-jawed, dark-eyed, holding hands with a much younger Senator Victoria Umeh. "That man, that's my father," Benson whispered. Henry nodded. "Your father, Ernest Nwoke, had an affair with Victoria Umeh before he married your mother. It was brief but intense. According to family letters and a private testimony I secured, Victoria was pregnant with a child she lost due to complications. She never forgave your father for leaving her." Benson's jaw tensed. "So this isn't just about Becky. This is revenge." "Exactly," Henry replied. "She's tried to erase you, not just for humiliating her daughter, but for being the son of the man who broke her." Benson closed the folder slowly. "Then we hit back, not with guns, not with violence, but with truth." Over the next 2 weeks, Benson's legal team, backed by Henry's investigators, launched a formal case against Senator Victoria Umeh. They released a carefully documented expose to the press, revealing her abuse of office, her direct interference in an active kidnapping investigation, and connections to the arson attack on Belinda's home. The media frenzy was unstoppable. Senator Umeh accused of orchestrating smear campaign, arson. Billionaire's shocking family link exposes political vendetta. Victoria denied everything at first, but a secret audio recording, captured by one of her former staff members, sealed her fate. "I don't care who he is. Burn the house. If they think they can embarrass my daughter, they'll suffer." The clip went viral. The Senate Ethics Committee launched an emergency hearing. Within days, Senator Victoria Umeh was suspended indefinitely and placed under criminal investigation. Her empire crumbled. Meanwhile, Benson bought a new home for Belinda and her mother. A quiet, spacious bungalow tucked just outside the city. Safe, green, peaceful. But Belinda didn't smile the way she used to. The trauma had left its print. "I don't want this war to change us," she told Benson one afternoon, sitting beside him in their new garden. "It won't," he replied, gently brushing her hair behind her ear. "We are not our enemies, and we never will be." She looked up at him with misty eyes. "But you're still carrying so much secrets, pain, responsibility." "Not alone anymore," he said. "I have you now." She smiled faintly. "Then I want to carry something too." "What?" "Our future." Benson blinked. "Are you?" Belinda nodded slowly, then took his hand and placed it on her belly. "I found out this morning," she whispered. "We're going to have a child." His heart skipped. For a moment, the world around him fell silent. Benson laughed softly, the kind of laugh that comes from deep relief, from redemption, from rebirth. "I promise," he whispered, "this child will grow up in truth. No lies, no secrets." A few months later, the story of the food seller and the secret billionaire became a symbol of justice, love, and resilience across Nigeria. Benson officially launched a foundation in Belinda's name, providing microloans to young women trying to start street businesses. Belinda, now a national icon, expanded her food business into a fast-growing franchise. Her first branch was called Mama B's Meals, with a mural of her original wooden food stand painted on every wall. As for Mr. Collins, he remained behind bars, serving a sentence for corruption and fraud. Becky, too, had been convicted for conspiracy and kidnapping. Her pride shattered in court when the judge read her sentencing without looking up once. Senator Victoria, disgraced and stripped of immunity, she faded into obscurity, her power gone, her allies silent. Some say she was last seen living quietly in a small town near the border, far from flashing cameras and political grandeur. But Benson never spoke ill of her again. He had let justice speak instead. On a warm Saturday afternoon, under the same mango tree where it all began, Benson and Belinda Exchange vows in intimate wedding ceremony. No politicians. No gold-plated halls. Just friends, family, and workers who had once carried cement with him. "I take you," Benson said, "not for what you gave me, but for who you were when I had nothing." Belinda's voice trembled. "And I take you, not for your name or wealth, but for your kindness, your courage, and your heart." They kissed beneath the leaves, their hands clasped not just in romance, but in truth. As the music played and guests danced, one of the oldest laborers in the site leaned toward another and said with a proud smile, "You see, that's the man who carried cement. And that woman, she once fed the entire site from a wooden table." The other man nodded. "Now look at them, carrying the future." Final note to the audience. Sometimes love is hidden beneath dust and sweat. Sometimes the one you ignore is the one sent to lift you. And sometimes the truth you fear most is the one that sets you free. If this story touched your heart, share it. Let kindness be louder than power. And let love, humble, honest love, lead the way.